I don't accept the idea of depression being a mental disorder. It is a decision. Men shouldn't be vulnerable. Men shouldn't cry. You are showing that you have no control over your feelings. You're not qualified to make decisions.
Mike Rashid grew up in the rough streets of Brooklyn during the chaotic cocaine 80s.
My mother, she was a single mother at the time. However, my mother did end up getting married to the biggest drug dealer in New York City. I'm about to be in prison.
Your boy went through some very trying times, but I'm back.
Mike turned to boxing as a way out, building his strength both physically and mentally.
I started building my first business when I was homeless.
Today, he's a successful entrepreneur who urges others to break free from their circumstances,
showing that even the hardest beginnings can lead to greatness.
I was a successful fugitive. So would you say that most people
100%.
they'll kill you for talking about that?
So you mentioned when you were younger, you had issues with aggression. Where did the aggression come from?
I don't think I had issues with aggression. I was just aggressive. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, right? So New York City is it's a small place, but you know about it. You know, we overcrowded, overpopulated, especially in Brooklyn. So it's a very competitive place. You're never seen or heard if you're just laid back. You don't participate if you're not aggressive and participate at whatever, whether it be sports, playing, eating, you know. So it was one of those environments in which it's like survival of the fit, like really. They say if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. I can attest that that's very, very much so true. So New York just had me very aggressive, you know.
So that made you quite hard and quite firm with what you wanted. Is that what developed the mindset of like, you know, wanting to do well in business, wanting to do well in life? You're obviously fit as well, you know, you look after yourself. Did that drive come from the environment around you?
It was 100% my environment, but not just New York, but also my parents. My mother put the battery in my back. You know, my mother is a generator. She is a very powerful person. So the passion, the energy, all of those things that I have comes from her. My father, on the other hand, is an intellectual. He's still around. So, you know, my father used to have me reading certain books, studying. My mother was big on me studying as well. They both was big on education, but my father was big on philosophies and things of that nature. So I learned a lot from both of them. And they weren't together, so my mother's husband was an influence too, to an extent. He was like the biggest drug dealer in New York at the time. So I grew up with my most dominant influence being the man. So I felt like I had to be the man too. And my mother is a woman. That's what she expected out of a man. So that's what she expected out of her son. So she was very hard on me to an extent. And the things, you know, I boxed at a young age. She loved it. This is interesting. She made me think she loved it, right? Because it wasn't until like maybe a couple years ago we were talking about it, and I was like, you used to love when I was getting it in. She said, actually, I didn't. She helped instill that confidence in me by like showing that she was into it, but she really didn't like it. And I didn't know that until I was an adult. I was like, what? That's crazy. So, which makes sense. But my mother did a phenomenal job of giving me so much confidence, you know? So my environment 100% made me aggressive. And I see nothing wrong with being aggressive, being competitive. I get criticized a lot, right? And I'm like, bring it, it's cool. You're aggressive, you're this, you're that. I'm like, look, I'm a nice person, right? If you look at somebody like me, someone who's very hyper aggressive and competitive, you know, I own businesses. Me being competitive, I'm gonna innovate and try to come up with the best products that I can possibly put together, right? Beat my competitors. They're gonna try to beat me. We're raising the bar on what y'all get to experience. So we're shifting society, literally, right? We're making things happen. Me being aggressive and competitive creates opportunities for many people to work under my organization, right? So there is a thing called, if you read Friedrich Nietzsche, he talks about, you know, slave morality versus master morality. And most people are programmed with a slave morality. So What that means is they don't stand for anything, but they stand against everything, right? And they have a hatred towards success, to the king, right? And they associate morality with suffering, with oppression. And look, oppression should be your greatest motivator if you were ever oppressed. That should be the reason why you become great and never become oppressed again. That's not something to celebrate, to waddle in. You get out of that. That's a temporary situation. But nonetheless, most people have somewhat of a slave morality, and it's not their fault. They're programmed with it. They're programmed with it from their environment, from their parents. Who programmed their parents? Their religions, their governments, right? Religion teaches and programs people to be slaves. You understand? When you look at Yeshua, or some call him Jesus, he was executed because he was telling people that y'all are gods. You have the miracles that I commit, you could do the same thing once you realize who you are, right? The leading factions of the time, which was the Jewish Pharisees and the Romans who were occupying Palestine at the time, they were like, this is not cool, right? Because another issue that he had with religion back then was, we were talking about capitalism earlier. They was injecting capitalism in religion. They were monetizing spirituality, and he didn't like that, right? So they had major conflict and issues. So they went to the Romans like, yo, get this guy out of here. And they did it. They killed him because he empowered people, right? He spoke power to them, right? And then what did they do all of these years later? The same people that killed him kind of crafted the Bible. What? The Romans killed my guy, and you're gonna give me the Bible? Nah, I'm good. Then they came up with all of these different notions and ideas like original sin. So they're telling people, and this has nothing to do with Jesus, this is way after him. They're telling people, you know what? You're born a sinner. So they're telling you, you have children?
No.
Okay. If you ever have a child, that's the most pure, innocent being ever, right? They have all the potential in the world to be great, to be beautiful, powerful. But that's not what they teach. They teach that that's a sinner. You're born a sinner. It makes no sense, right? So people have this notion and this idea of being small, of being like not worthy, of not being divine, right? So, and this is by design, you know? Because typically power structures, whoever is on top, they want to keep that position. So they put people in a state of confusion, fear, keep them in that slave mentality so that they can profit off of them. How do they profit off of them? Marketing, whatever, the church, right? The church created this original sin thing, so you have to come to us for salvation. Can't do it alone, you know? So, which is totally bullshit, if you ask me, if you really read scripture. But anyway, so people have this slave morality, and that's why they look to people like me or yourself or whomever is doing well for themselves and like, yeah, but you're bad. You know, you're evil. All right, that's cool, you know? When they should be trying to get up under people like us or getting counsel with us and learn or get good at something to work for one of us, right? Work your way up, whatever. So that's just an issue that people have in modern society. They don't even know it.
How did your dad instill that in you? You've obviously got a good understanding of philosophy. I love reading philosophy as well. Very rarely do I hear people dropping names like Nietzsche or Jung,
Freud,
all of that. I love that stuff, and I've been studying that stuff for years. How did your dad instill that in you from a young age? Because a lot of people, when you talk about philosophy or you talk about these ideas, a lot of people, especially when they're younger, steer away from them, especially knowing that the power that you have is within yourself, not something outside of yourself. Mm-hmm. Was it something like every night you'd sit down and read that sort of stuff, or was it something that you just noticed him doing and him studying and you just found it interesting?
You know, he would drop little jewels on me, and once you're exposed to something, it's hard to unexpose yourself to it, right? It just always fascinated me. I've always been fascinated with learning, period. I remember when I went to college, it was so corny. I walk on campus, I was like, wow, it's a whole university of information at my disposal. Like, I thought that was the greatest thing in the world, right? So I've always been fascinated by learning. Like if you ask any of my peers from back in the day to now, I've always been that same person. So my father, you know, he would drop things on me here and there, and then I would just run with it. You know, I run with it. I've always been inquisitive. I ask a lot of questions. You know, I can't help it. And people ask me all the time, do you believe this? You believe that? I'm like, no, I don't believe anything, right? It's not necessary to believe. To believe something is to attach yourself to an idea or a notion without having any proof. That's not necessary. You can know. So I either know or I don't know. But I'm not going to attach myself to something that I just don't know. I have no problem saying I don't know. I'm not informed on that particular subject to intelligently speak on it. So I'll leave that alone. I'll do some research, maybe.
That's amazing. You said that your mum was sort of like the one who was, I guess, behind you, pushing you and you know, holding you accountable to your own greatness by the sound of things. What made her be so driven to make sure that you are driven?
What are we? We're humans. What is a human? We are comprised of cells, atoms, chromosomes, DNA, right? What is DNA? DNA is digital information. It's instructions. What is the instructions of? It's the instructions to make us who we're going to be, right? Half is from your father, half is from your mother, and it keeps going back further and further and further. So my mother just happens to be a passionate, powerful person. So that's in me, just genetically. She didn't teach me, hey, you have to be passionate and powerful. That's just how it is, right? I understand who I am and what I am, right? I'm a human being, but human being is a form of an animal, right? So I'm an animal, so I have all of the characteristics of an animal. However, I'm an evolved being because I have a robust cerebral cortex and frontal lobe. So I have empathy, I have imagination, I have all of these things that cousins don't have, right? So I utilize that. I don't act like I don't. However, if I need to employ tactics of nature, I will, right? Why? Because we are all animals and we all want to survive and thrive, right? And this is survival of the fit at the end of the day. So I know how to balance what the best of both of what I have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so, but my mother had a very, very rough life. So my mother's just the sweetest person in the world, but she does have a degree of a hard exterior, a no bullshit type of mentality and energy about her, you know? I got it too.
My mum was exactly the same. She had me at 17 years of age in a Catholic family.
Yeah.
And yeah, you don't want to fuck with my mum. That's for sure.
That's real.
If she did, she'd open a can of whoop ass.
Oh my God, same, mine, man. And nothing like having a powerful mother, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I used to hate it when I was younger, but now that I look back, I'm like, no wonder why I'm so driven and ambitious and don't put up with shit from others because that was, you know, I had that in the household.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Your entrepreneurial journey, how did that start? And at what age were you starting to sort of figure out that you wanted to start businesses and make money? And was that something that was just inherently in you from a young age, or was it something that you started to develop after college or?
Now, it's always been in me. So you understand something about a person of African descent in America. We are not really in the system like that. We're not part of the culture, the American culture, right? So we always did things however we wanted to do it, however we figured it out. You know, a lot of times we find ourselves on the opposite end of the law. So we had to be clandestine with certain activities and certain things and how we lived. A lot of times we don't even have mom and dad in the house, right? I'm no different than anyone else. I had to figure things out. And I knew that, you know, I wanted success. I wanted to experience opulence and things of that nature. So at a certain age, I started my first business, and I was wholesaling mid-grade marijuana from Mexico to the East Coast, doubling my money, you know, and I ran it like a business. And nobody taught me. See, I had an uncle that was doing it, and I would work for him, like just shipping boxes off for him. And I'm just like observing. And my uncle wasn't that smart. So I'm like, this is easy, right? So the money I was making from him, I'm saving it so I can buy the work myself and send it myself. And I'm like, man, why wasn't I doing this before? So that grew into a really big business, you know? And I ran it like a business. I ran it very professionally, clean, lean, not many people involved, you know? good business, honest business. So then, fast forward, I always had a good head on my shoulders, even when I was doing things that was in opposition to the law of the land. But I am an outlaw, so if I want to do something and it doesn't align with the law, I'm going to weigh out my consequences. And if I can deal with whatever happens if I get caught, I'm going to do it. Still to this day, right? Not saying that I do anything illegal. I don't. But if I needed to do something that made sense for me, that y'all telling me don't do it, I'm not going to listen to y'all. I trust myself. So that's what I was doing. But at the same time, there's a whole lifestyle that comes with that. And I've always been an extremely authentic person at whatever I did. So I was being authentic to that lifestyle. And, I have an advantage on a lot of people because I was down to be the biggest demon, worse than anybody else, but I also had a high degree of intellect so I could maneuver properly. I could do things and not get caught. I can, plan, plot, and strategize to a high degree. So that's just what I was and what I was doing. But that made people very uncomfortable, And one thing about life is this. It's interesting because the streets, you learn a lot about society and the world. When you're in a leadership position and the dominant energy behind you is terror or fear, people will kill you. When you lead or you're in some type of leadership position and your energy is love, people will protect you, okay? So at that time, my energy was tyranny. It was invoking fear. I was having people trying to get me. I was dealing with that, and I'm dealing with trying to stay away from the police. So it was too much, And then what happened was I attracted a disease situation to myself to help expedite my transition out of that. We were just talking about this earlier, someone broke into my home, and I did what I felt was necessary to protect my home. And the police was like, well, can't do that here. Not here, buddy. So they tried to put me away for a long time. So I said, nah, I'm good. So I went on a run. I became a fugitive. So that forced me to stop doing what I was doing. And I was a successful fugitive, not bragging, but typically when somebody go on a run, they get caught within the first month or two because the marshals are looking every known address, everyone they're watching for like a month. And then typically you're still in touch with your friends and family. You're still doing illegal things to sustain yourself. And I did none of that. So I laid low for that time that I knew they would watch. And then I popped back up, but in somewhere else, undisclosed location. And then I proceeded with my life. That went on for 7 years. During that time, it was a grace period for myself to prove to myself that I was not a bad person. So there was a lot of decisions that I had to make. When you're in such a position of despair, sometimes things that you want to do are not logical. It's heavy emotions. And there was times when, I had not much money. I'm working humbling jobs for people I didn't even respect, right? And I'm like, bro, you would be food in my world. And you're talking to me like this, And then there was people who were subordinate to me back in my old life that was laughing at my downfall or what appeared to be my downfall. And it was like, you know what? I'm gonna crash out. I'm gonna go knock on their doors and give them a bad day, right? It's not logical. That doesn't help me at all. It might make me feel good for a hot second, but it's really foolish. And these are the things that I had to fight off of me, right? I had to fight off that little spirit of depression. It was right here. I had to ignore it, and proceed with my life, doing the right things, rebuilding myself in a positive way. So that's what I did for that 7 years. At that time, I had an entrepreneurial brain because I was doing these things already, but they just happened to have been illegal. But now I'm putting that energy and that time in legal things, and it was working out. It was easier than the streets. It was like, this is easy, right? So things were good, and at this point, you can't go to war without money. So now it's time for me to go to war, and that was with the government to fight for my freedom, and I had the money to do so, to do it properly, and that's what I did, and it worked out for me. I won. So, from there, it just never stopped. Businesses keep booming, keep growing. The fuel to my fire that still burns right now comes from that period of time when I was on the run.
What makes entrepreneurship, sorry to interrupt, but like what made entrepreneurship easier than doing it illegally? Because most people take the illegal path because they perceive that it's easier than running a real business.
They're not thinking, they're not using their brains. What makes it easier is nobody's trying to put you in jail, right? You don't have to be so clandestine, you know? There's a degree of stress that comes with doing illegal things. You have to worry all the time, you know? And, you know, there's a lot of things that I had to reprogram myself on once I started doing things legally, because I didn't really respect money back then. I would go out and buy a bar, which is stupid, like 30 racks in a club just to own the bar for the night for a bunch of assholes who don't care about me. You know what I'm saying?
I've been there.
Yeah, you feel me? So I would buy cars just to shit on people, just to say I got it. You know, so I had to like really reprogram myself to respect money. I was telling my good friend over there, Kevin, like, yo, I respect every dollar now. You owe me $1,000, I need my $1,000, I need my $100. You know what I'm saying? It don't matter. Before I used to be like, whatever. So I really respect money. Money is a representation of one's time, effort, intellect, skill set, sacrifice, you know? So if I respect myself, I have to respect my money. I didn't respect it back then because it becomes so easy. So everything I had from back then is gone. I lost it, right? And I didn't even, as I'm losing these things, I couldn't even be mad. I was like, well, you got it illegally. What do you expect? It is what it is. But to do it the right way, it's just, from my experience, it's just a lot easier. It's just easy, you know? It's nothing to worry about.
When did you start getting into the gym? Like I bumped into you today when I was, you know, training with Wes and all the boys. You're jacked and you're with a bunch of dudes who are all big and fit and everything like that. That's what I love about being here is like, well, most of the people that I've caught up with are all like big and jacked. When did the gym become such an important part of your life or exercise? Has it always been something or?
All my life, bro.
Yeah?
All my life. I started working out when I was like 11 or 12. For one, I started boxing at age 12, maybe 11, but my first boxing match at 12. And I was working out, lifting weights at the same time, you know? I just wanted to be strong. Like, you know, what boy don't want to be strong and fast? Can do pull-ups, can run faster, can lift weights, be strong, do push-ups. That was who I was. I was the quintessential little masculine, little mannish little boy that wanted to be powerful and strong, you know? I wanted to be a superhero. So that's always been my archetype. I've always been in the gym my entire life. That is an equation, a constant equation that has always been in my world, always. I've never not been in shape.
So even if business is chaotic and everything, you still prioritize gym, exercise?
100%. 100%. When I was down and out, my darkest days, I still had the gym. I was working out. I had 2 songs I would play over and over, 2 depressing songs. Halo by Beyonce and Polly by Nirvana. I didn't want to be happy. Let me hear my songs and I'm gonna work out.
I would not have thought they would have been 2 songs that would have been on your playlist.
Those are my favorite songs to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like sad music though. I'm kind of weird. I like melancholy things.
What's in your playlist currently?
A lot of Drake, Big Sean. It's a lot. It's a lot of new music. It's a lot. I love music, man. I love the arts to a high degree. Yeah. So I got some eclectic playlists. I like some EDM. Like I was talking to my friends about, we were talking about maybe going to Colombia soon to go to one of those big festivals that they have out there. I just love experiencing life and all of man, we got so many incredible things to be thankful for, so we might as well go and experience them, you know? Like imagine tomorrow waking up and there's no more music. It's just gone. Handle it. It's weird, right? So yeah, I love music.
Where did that inspiration or that love of music come from?
I don't know, bro. I just always have loved it.
Wasn't your mum or your dad or?
Nah, I mean, they like music too. My mother sang, but who don't like music? I think that's just it's such an interesting thing. It's so unique to humans. It's so important to us, but it's not important to our survival or anything. You know what I mean? But we love it so much. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Yeah. I'd be interested to find out because I grew up with a dad who he would sit there at nighttime and he'd just put his headphones on back in the old day where you plug it into the, I don't know if you remember them. They were like those, were they Technics?
Like turntables.
No, they were like, it was in the 90s, like a big Technics. They were like silver and stuff and he'd put these big headphones on with the cords. Okay. He'd plug it in and he'd just sit there at nighttime just listening to music.
I ain't mad at it. I love that. I don't know what got me into it. I just have always loved it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So coming back to business, what do you think made you so successful at business? So you've got your drive, you've got your change in mindset around money and appreciating it. What makes you successful in business, especially multiple different businesses? What are like the key things that have really led to your success?
The fact that people like me, so I can market product and services to these people. I know I'm good at what I do, right? So I was asked yesterday or the day before doing the Q&A, something about money, like how do you figure out what to do for this kind of money or that? I don't think about money. Money likes me. It loves me. It comes to me. Why? Because I ignore it. I focus on being good at what I do, whatever it is. If there's products like my supplement brand, Ambrosia. So I'm sure you heard of Orgain, right? Orgain has they're the dons with plant-based protein, right? Big boys. You know, we got word from some undisclosed sources that we're on their radar in regards to them changing up their whole marketing and how they're moving and how they're looking, because Planta is so fire, like everything about what we do, right? So I know that I do excellent in whatever space that I'm in. So we have the best plant-based protein in the world, right? When we came up with this, the whole notion behind Ambrosia was like, we should just make the best, max out on the science, like forget about the margins, just make the best product just because we can. Not even worry about the money. And you know what was a huge indicator that we was gonna be successful was Australia. We did like $1 million in sales in Australia alone one year. We were like, oh shit, we got something here, you know? So Australia is pure in regards to people there that's into fit, they love it. Y'all really have a fit lifestyle out there because everyone lives so coastal and the weather's good. So typically in places where it's good weather, people want to look good. They don't want to wear as much clothes, much layers. But for whatever reason it is, when I've come to Australia, it seems like everybody's in shape and look good. You know?
Oh, you haven't been there for long enough.
I guess not. But granted, I'm there for fitness events. So
Yeah.
of course the best of the best come out. But it works out for me because I don't care about money. I care about money, but I don't really. And I can say that because I've always had it.
Explain that to me, because that's a really interesting concept. Like, I care about it, but I don't care about it. Can you explain that in more detail? Because I think from what I see is too many people are attached to it and they sell everything that's important to them, their time, their family, their everything, in order to make this money so that one day in the future they'll have something that they can enjoy or appreciate or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's a really interesting concept, because this keeps coming up with high-level entrepreneurs is I care, but I don't really care that much.
Right. That's logical. One, sacrificing time with their family and so on and so forth to be able to create that nest egg, right? There's nothing wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't think a man should be at home all the time. I don't think a man should be home playing with the kids all the time. A man should be outside hunting, building, creating, bringing it back to the house, right? Creating a safe environment for his wife to thrive as a mother or a wife, right? So I see nothing wrong with that. I and probably others like me speak from this position because we have money. So we can say, it's not important to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's a luxury that we have that a lot of people can't say. And me, I've always had money, always.
What though made you different to be able to always have money? Like, it's not something that you just wake up and there's a duffel bag of cash next to your bed when you're born. What is it?
I'm gonna tell you. Women.
Okay.
Women. People could tell you all of this deep shit that they want, but I'm gonna ask you that. What's the purpose of life?
If we go back to animal instincts, it's to eat and breed.
It's to fuck. It's to have sex. All roads lead to sex. Why? Because we are all programmed. Every creature on this planet is programmed to produce progeny. So we don't even realize that we're programmed to just reproduce. That's why we feel what they call horny or whatever, right? So one time, I take this girl out to the movies. This is like, I'm in college. I really like this girl, right? And on my debit card, I had enough for the movies and maybe just for the movies, right? And maybe I had like some cash for like drinks and popcorn. But on my card, there's enough for the movies. And I was like maybe 35 cents short. And they were like, yeah, it's not working. That was the most humiliating shit I ever experienced in my fucking life, right? So I was like, I'm gonna just take you home. I didn't even wanna, I took her home. I was so embarrassed, I never even talked to her again, right? She didn't even care, but I didn't even talk to her again. And I was like, I'll never be in that situation again. So when I had to come up, nobody seen me. Right? I'm grinding, getting to the bag. The humility that I experienced, it was like this scratching your nails on the chalkboard, but times 11, times 1,000, right? I never wanted to feel that. And then as you get older, you just realize how important money is. Like, we live in this world where you can experience, you will see people living in such opulence. It's weird to not, I'm not the type of person that's not gonna experience it if I want to. I'm gonna have whatever I wanna have, right? So that's my mentality, that's always been my mentality. So I have to do the things to be able to have whatever I wanna have. And I can have right now whatever I wanna have.
How do you control that desire? Because obviously desire is a animal trait as well. You know, the great philosophers always spoke about like controlling this animalistic desire. How do you control that when you can have whatever you want, but at the same time you forgo whatever you want? You know, we spoke about diet and eating, and you said you eat once a day. Why not just eat all the shit? Why not go out and buy all the stuff? Like, how do you personally think through that process?
When one is a slave to one's desires, you know, the outcome is never positive, it's never good for that person. And I've learned that me being a disciplined person sets me aside from most people, and this allows me to have the things that I want to have when it's necessary. So let's say I'm dating somebody, and she's like, let's go to Taco Tuesday, let's do this on Thursday. I'm like, no, we don't do that. But what are we gonna do? All right, boom, now it's time, end of the year, we're gonna make a trip, we're gonna yacht week. How about that with the squad? 2 weeks on a yacht, you feel me? So it's like you sacrifice all the little things to indulge in the big things when it's necessary. I don't live my life to have fun, right? I do think people should enjoy life, and I enjoy life, but what makes me enjoy life is deep, meaningful connections with people that I love, that I admire, that I respect, providing the environment for everybody else to have fun, right? And also being meaningful and important to people in my community. So every man should qualify himself to be important to other people, because that would give you so much purpose and meaning in life to where you're not seeking so many external things for fun. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I live very similarly, but
Yeah.
How do you control that though? Because you're obviously wearing a nice watch and, you know, jewelry, and how do you limit that? Is there a limit, or how do you decide whether you're going to make a purchase on a nice car or
these
a nice
things are
apartment?
standards. It's standard for me to wear a $100,000 watch. That's a standard. That's a base. Today I worked out in a $150,000 watch, right? That's a standard, right? It's standard for me to have the Chariot, the Phantom, the car I want. That's standard. It's standard for me to have the things that I want, right? But outside, I can keep going, but it's not necessary. I don't need it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
So, you know, I don't even post the things that I have. Rarely do I, right? Because it's for me. I'm past that impressing people stage. I was there. I was there. Y'all see what I got? Oh, what about this? I'm not there anymore, right? I could care less. My daily driver is a regular car. It's a EQS Mercedes, right? It's very nondescript. Like it don't stand out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Me buying a Phantom was because that was just a goal of mine. It was like a dream car. By the time I bought it, I didn't really care, right? And look, I've been in situations before to where I had to check myself. To where I remember I went to buy a particular car one time, and my budget was like $150. And I go to get the car, and then there was another car that just happened to be right next to my car, similar, but it was like $100,000 more, right? I'm sitting here calculating, doing the math in my head like that. And then I'm talking to the guy who owns the dealership, like, I want this car, I want this car, I want this car. Like a crackhead, like, oh, yeah, I'm coming tomorrow, I'm gonna get this car. So I leave. So this was like around Halloween time, a couple years ago. And we had planned to go to Horror Nights at Universal Studios. Me and my girl at the time, I did like some sacred medicine, some mushrooms when we went, and Molly. And that stuff always brings me centered to truth. And as I'm walking around, I'm like, what was wrong with you today? Like, you look like an idiot. I'm coming back tomorrow. Like, what's wrong with you? That other car is perfectly fine, right? And I'm like, I'm tripping. I do not need that fucking stupid ass car. So it just brought me to my truth. And then I went back the next day and like, give me this car. This is what I wanted. And turned out the car that I wanted to get, I was able to get a better version of that car for not much money more. It just happened to come in that day. The universe rewarded me for not being an idiot, right? And being that much of a slave to my desires. Because I had a moment where I was like a crackhead. Like, I just was so addicted to that, the better option, So that's my ego to a degree. Very healthy. It's very voluminous, right? It's an abundant ego that I have, right? But I do live a life of abundance, and I do know that I deserve the things that I desire. But I'm not a slave to my desires by any means.
How do you tell the difference between your standards versus going above those standards and just chasing that opulence or
Yeah, it's got to make sense to me, I won't buy a vehicle, watch, or anything that is going to strain me in any way. Do I already have something like this? Why would I need another one? Whatever that is, right? So it's things like that. When you're thinking about something like that, you shouldn't be doing it. You're trying to calculate, move things around, and you calculating this payment going to come in, and knock it off. Knock it off, The future is an illusion. We hope that we get it, but there's no telling it's going to come, right? There's no telling that check that's promised to you in 3 months is going to come, right? Anything can happen. So we honor the right now and do what makes sense. Also, I have children. I got to think about other people, not just my selfish pleasures.
With your businesses, how do you make sure you bring on the right people? How do you know who to trust? How do you allow that to work and operate without your consistent input?
Yeah, that's a good question. So with the Ambrosia Collective, our supplement company, we're fast-tracked into $100 million in revenue. So it's a big business now. It started out we bootstrapped 30 grand. It started out just never raised money, no debt, a clean business, right? And it's grown. So of course, we could not scale the way that we're scaling without hiring talented people. So we had to be very disciplined and not pay ourselves for a while in the beginning of the business to have money to invest in talented people. I have people that work for me that drive Lambos and Porsches and Cybertrucks and things of that nature, right? You need snipers if you want to be that kind of business. You need talented people that demand 6 figures and better to grow, right? You're not going to do it by, getting people that's not talented or qualified, right? So that was part of it. So we go out for the best of the best, and we are the ultimate practitioners at what we do, though. We can do this with our eyes closed, but, we have a good grasp on everything that needs to be done, but we can't physically do everything. You just spread yourself thin. So we got to bring in the right people, and that's what we've been doing. And we move slow. We do everything very conservative and very well thought out, and we scrutinize everything. We go to the war table and we poke holes in everything. Any concept, decision, or whatever, we bring it to the table and somebody poke holes in it. And we try to fix it, make it hater-proof before we move on it. That's what we've been doing. And listen, the culture of my business is what makes my business so special. The products is the best. It literally is the best there is. But the culture of it is what really attracts people to it.
How did you build that culture? What was it initially that has allowed the right talent to be attracted into your organization?
All right, so I used to have a gym out here. And shout out to my boy Angel, who owns the gym that we just left. Mm-hmm. So he used to work for me. And I remember he had a period that he wanted to fire this guy, that guy. I'm like, go for it. And then I was like, whoa, you got to stop firing people. I hear the complaints, but if you're firing everybody, that's a reflection on you, which is a reflection on me or us, right? They're not us. So we have to get them up to speed. You don't want to be firing people all the time because you have the power to do so. That's an abuse of power. You should be teaching them, coaching them. That's part of what you do in a management position, right? So that's what it's about. It's about working with people. And when you work with people, you develop a deeper rapport. They care. They see that you care, so they care more, right? That's part of the culture. You have people that will go to war for you. It's a business, but I never came to it with the business mindset, like margins, profits, fuck all of that shit. Look, all of the things that I got going on, whether it's my mentorship program, I got the right people in place. I'm like, yo, I don't want to know nothing about prices, none of that. Y'all don't talk to me about none of that. Don't have me on a call talking about strategies. I don't want to hear it. I'm going to work on, like with my community, I put together a lecture. I speak for like 30, 45 minutes. Then I open it up for discussion, new topics every week. These are the things that I'm doing. Don't talk to me about discounts and prices. Y'all handle that. You know what I'm saying? And I bring people on in partnership capacities, because if you own a piece of this business, you got to make it work, you know, versus just giving people a paycheck and they're just doing the bare minimum. Forget about the money. It's going to come. It has to. Think about this like with a woman. Let's say you're attracted to we all in school and you like this girl and everybody like her. Y'all all look lame to her, right? But that one guy who ain't giving her no attention, she's going to want him because he's ignoring her, right? He's not giving her that kind of attention. He's signaling to her non-verbally that he's not a thirsty person. So he deserves her attention. So it's going to go to him. That's how I am with money. I ain't chasing paper. I'm not doing it, you know? But it comes to me as it should, and I expect it to come. So, you know, people got to understand their relationship and their power. They're not harnessing and using their power correctly, right? There's such an emphasis on money and being successful, this, that, and the third. Money does not equate success. Having money and making money is a byproduct of being successful. Being a solid person, the byproduct is you have money. Because there's people with money that suck. Their lives fucking suck. Nobody likes them. They have no real friends. People are only around them because they got things and they're gonna get things from them, right? Being a real successful person, and that's a person with deep, meaningful connections, right? With people that are kill and die for you, that you'll kill and die for, that's successful.
How do you attract those people into your life?
Because I'm one of those people. So like minds attract, right? I met Kevin a few years ago through some people I didn't like, but those shining lights will attract. I seen something there, we connected, that's my dog, that's my brother. His wife is my sister, his kids is my nieces and nephews, you know? And we don't have to talk every day, that's weird, like we're not hanging out every day. But when we do, it's a vibe, it's dope. So that's really like just how I live my life, to the beat of my own drum.
What philosophers have been the most influential in your life?
I think one that I love dearly, is a lot that I love, but Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu, for those who don't know, he wrote Tao Te Ching. He was a powerful man, but he was a janitor. He was like a house cleaner of a castle, Ming Dynasty, one of those dynasties 1,000 years ago. And he had such a simple philosophy of like, be without being, you know? One of my favorite quotes of his is, he who defines himself doesn't really know who he is. I'm like, damn, you're right. So it makes you step back and just relax, bro. Just relax. You know, just relax, Mr. Important, you know? Because life is very dynamic. You can control all things thrown your way, but you gotta be in a masterful position to be able to identify what it is you need to control. Some things is not necessary to control. Some things you just sidestep. You don't have to deal with everything, right? He's a very profound one for me, Lao Tzu.
Love it.
What about you? Because you say you're into philosophy.
For me personally, and thank you for asking the question, Freud's work, I love the ego, the id, and the superego, because I think it summarizes humans so well. And I teach a lot of this in what I do, that you essentially have the ego, which is the true self, the who you really are. And then as a child, you have the impulses and the fears or the instincts. And you're trying to navigate as a child the pleasures and the fears. And so because you can't navigate those yourself because of the prefrontal cortex and so on that's not developed, you've got to have parental figures who come in and cast their values onto you. And then as you go to school, their values get cast onto you, and he called that the superego. And so he essentially says that the moralizing voices inside of your head are the implanted values of others, and they start to distort your own path or your own ego, your real identity. And I just love that idea of, that we're consistently having these challenges between the animal instincts and the impulses and the fears and the implanted values of others that are trying to counteract and counterbalance each other.
What's Freud's reconciliation of that idea?
Wow, that's a powerful question. It was really that throughout life, our brain is always in balance. So when we have these impulses where we're desiring this pleasure, at the same time, the implanted value of a parental figure or an influence on us at some younger age pops into our head at the same time as we have these massive amounts of impulse. And so they're essentially counterbalancing each other with the pleasure, the positive, and the negatives of the judgment and the criticism that we're going to receive from these implanted values. Or the other way around is that when we're in fear and we're stressed and we're worried about things, that there is the implanted value of someone else who's trying to prop us up and encourage us to do better, to try to counteract our own brains. And so I just love that, because if you go to any moment in time where you're either fear-driven or impulsive, someone's popping into your brain either to encourage you or to tell you don't do it because it's stupid and you're going to be judged and criticized. And so I just love that idea that our brain is always telling us where our truth is and where our path is. Right. We just have to be open to listen to it.
No, for sure.
But I also love Schopenhauer. One of my favorite quotes, he said, "We become ourselves to the extent that we see others within ourselves." And I just love that. Like, we have a lot of people who come to my events and I ask this question at the start of the event. I say, who's a kind person? And, you get most people, they put up their hand, and I say, who would classify themselves as being really kind? And, you always get the over-exaggerators, and they're, yeah. And I look at them and I say, except to yourself. And then you watch their hands drop and they go, shit, you're right.
Wait, you're kind except to yourself?
Yes. So when you're kind to everybody else and you perceive that you've got this external persona that you're casting out, that I'm this kind person, you essentially become a doormat to others and you'll be treated like shit. Because the truth is, you are kind at the expense of yourself. True balance is knowing that you've got the aggression to set boundaries, but you do it because of the kindness to yourself and them.
So would you say that most people are kind to others at the detriment to themselves?
100%.
I so don't relate to that.
Really?
No.
Okay.
I won't let nobody take advantage of me. There's like maybe 2 people in my life that have kind of used me as doormats, but these are people in my family, right? So that's a little bit different. But I'm just hyper aware, and I can smell, see, hear people's intentions a mile away, and I just don't allow it.
That's, I think, because you're more balanced as an individual and you become the extent to which you see others in yourself, which is you have the capacity for aggression and anger and probably extreme violence as well. But at the same time, you're kind enough to realize that you will gift people whichever persona that you need. And so you use them both when appropriate.
Interchangeably. No, indeed. And this is something that like people run away from, right? People want to project. I find myself in these weird conversations sometimes, right? With groups of people when there's men and women around. And if it's not my woman, I don't care. Like, I'm not trying to impress nobody, right? But these guys are always trying to, and they think that they're in competition with me. If I want to be in competition with you, it's not gonna work for you, right? Sometimes I see people as less than me, and it is what it is. So these guys, this particular guy, some of my story came up, right? And the guy's like, I'm peaceful, man. Like, I never even been in a fight, never been arrested. I'm like, why is he saying these things? You're trying to make me look bad, right? I said, you're not peaceful, you're harmless. Okay, it's a big difference. I'm peaceful. I'm peaceful because I can tear shit up, and I choose not to. So I employ peace. That's not your situation. You are just harmless. You don't have the capacity to be anything but what we perceive as peaceful or just modest or meek, right? I'm not meek at all. I'm choosing to be calm and peaceful all the time. I do not show emotions, right? I master my emotions. That doesn't mean I'm not an emotional person. I'm hyper emotional. So I'm always calibrating. I'm always fighting back those desires to just step on people and be mean to people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
So it's like, bro, knock it off. I don't even like those kind of conversations. I don't want to hear a grown man talk about how tough he is. I don't care. It means nothing to me. This is a pointless conversation. What it is people don't really know who they are. And I understand that, right? They're trying to like figure out their avatar. But what they got to realize is you telling me what your avatar is not your avatar. Remember what Lao Tzu said, he who defines himself doesn't know who he is. So just don't do that. Your avatar should be obvious when you walk in the door. Your presence should be felt, right? We understand what kind of person this is, right? So we had, do you know who Tyrese is, the singer, the actor?
Not really.
Tyrese Gibson?
Heard,
okay.
Yeah.
So he's promoting a movie. So he's doing his run, and he had a viral moment of him crying. I'm just like, and I had a week before that, I did some content. I was saying like, men shouldn't be vulnerable.
I actually have that as a question. Yeah.
And men shouldn't cry, right? I just threw it out there, just for the conversation. So somebody tagged me in the post of Tyrese crying. I said, is he weak? I said, look, you're saying that. I never said he's weak. I said he's a hell of an actor, and he got himself a moment. This is a moment right here. That's all I said, right? You should see the whining, the winery. It's like a vineyard. All these guys like, a man should be able to cry. I'm like, knock it off. You don't want to see your father crying every time the camera's on his. First of all, don't cry on camera. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see it. And he gets like Tyrese, just a few years ago, he was going through a divorce and all of these things, and he's recording himself crying, right? You record yourself crying. It's strange to me. And then you upload it to social media. You don't have to upload it. It's weird that you're recording yourself crying, for one, right? So many steps to not do this, right? Then it goes viral because people, you know why people support that? Because people typically are weak and they are a slave to their feelings and their emotions. And they want somebody else to justify their bad behavior or their weak behavior. It's not okay. These people telling me, well, will my mother die? I'm like, what are we talking about, sir? I'm talking about this man who's in a leadership position crying every time he get a chance to. He's manipulating y'all, right, for sympathy. After the first viral crying moment, that's crazy, he got multiple. He bragged about how many movie deals he got, you know? He's the same type of person that if a woman breaks up with him, he's gonna call her and say, I'm gonna kill myself. No, you're not. Shut up. Do it. I feel you, go for it. People that wanna kill themselves just do it. They don't warn you, you know? You find a note after. So I just don't like any of that kind of stuff, right?
It's interesting because you've brought that up a couple of times now about how easily people are manipulated into thinking certain ways.
Yeah. I don't relate to a man that's crying. Listen, cry behind closed doors, if that's what you gotta do, right? You are showing that you have no control over your feelings. You're not qualified to make decisions because a person that makes emotional decisions, they're making wrong decisions. It's never a good thing to make an emotional decision. Be a fucking man. It's okay to be a man, guys. It's all right to be a man. It's all right to be stoic. Deal with your stuff in a different way, in a more productive manner, right? That's why I don't accept the idea of depression being a mental disorder or whatever. It is a decision. And yes, this one lady, she hates me. She's a psychologist. I'm not qualified to speak on these things. I'm the most qualified. Because my life was in the balance. My freedom was in the balance. I had to deal with that, right? So I had depression right here over my shoulder. And I fought them off. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. I ain't got time to be depressed. I got to fix my life. If I would have just accepted depression, who knows what? I'd be a fat, broke loser in prison somewhere, you know? So you can choose that. It's a waste of time.
What do you think, though, some people choose it and some people don't?
They're not giving an outlet. Like my voice, people like me is told that this is dangerous. This woman said, he has a dangerous message. Because I'm telling them not to go and take your suggestion and take SSRIs, a very addictive drug that numbs you, right? No, I'm not going to say that. So, okay, you have a condition called post-traumatic stress disorder, right? So you go through all of these traumatic events. The only outcome they're giving you is you're damaged. It's a disorder. What about post-traumatic stress growth? You went through what? And you're here? Yo, you are an evolved man. You dealt with all of that chaos and you held it together and you came out with more insight, more wisdom. You can counsel people now. You can help people dealing with this stuff. You're qualified. No. We're damaged. We need drugs. We need to sit in a circle and talk about whatever. You lash out at work. Well, I got to blame it on my PTSD. Well, he has PTSD. You hear this all the time. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to tell y'all my traumas that I've dealt with, the demons that I had to slay. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to play those games with y'all. But I reject all of this. People like to be in boxes, which is interesting. And there's only negative boxes put out there. And you put yourself in a negative box, you have an excuse to not being great. You have an excuse for bad behavior. You have an excuse for being lazy, right? Look, it's not gonna work out for you. I'm gonna say it like that. You're gonna be a loser, and life is gonna pass by, and you're gonna be thinking about this in 20 years like, fuck. Nobody cares in 20 years when you're a loser that you had PTSD when you was 28. Nobody gives a fuck. What matters is right now, and men don't have the luxury. Look, men and women are not the same, right? Women, we adore women. We open the door for y'all, for women. Oh, what do you need? Like, we're super nice and we want to take care of them. Nobody takes care of a man, right? So what good are you if you're useless to people? Nobody, you think the government's going to help you forever? And that's the life that you want, right? To sit around a bunch of other guys complaining. I got a buddy named Derek Weeder. Shout out to Derek Weeder. He lost a leg in Afghanistan, right? And he was participating in those PTSD meetings, and then he said, I stopped. I said, why? He says, because it sounds like a bunch of pussies. Everybody's complaining. He doesn't even take 100% disability because he could still work. I said, bro, I respect you. I shook his hand, you know, because we men, we get thrown all kind of shit. We got to fucking deal with it.
Oh, we've even had women who've come through our events and most of them would kick most dudes' ass.
You feel me? So it's like the culture, the American culture is just weird.
Oh, I think Australia's very similar as well.
All of these cultures in the West, and this is a Eurocentric culture. You guys and us are extensions of Great Britain. You know, we are America and Australia, and it's a very weird culture.
Actually, I'm gonna ask you a question before I, jump in and give my 2 cents worth, because I think like I have a very similar opinion as well, and have been burnt over the coals for having philosophies. But I've worked with a lot of people who have had PTSD, and they'll come to our events and seminars and so on. Not that I advertise that that's what I do. I just I hold people accountable to their greatness, which is what you do as well. What gives you the courage to speak about it, knowing that it can damage your business, that it can damage your brand? Because you're obviously going to get attacked online when you speak about things that are unconventional and outside the norm. What gives you the courage to just put it out there?
I'm standing on truth. So when the dust settles, the truth is always standing. Everything else quiets down. The truth is a constant. All right, so let's talk about mathematics, right? That's the language of the universe. It's the language of God, right? And, we can say the most important disciplines of math is algebra and geometry. Let's talk about geometry. Let's talk about equations. Let's talk about what's happening with equations. There's constants, right? So with a constant, you can predict everything, right? That's how we can get to the moon. We can go to Mars. Every 9 months, we know that we can get to Mars. It's constants. A constant in life is standing on the truth. You're always going to be fine. I know that the things that I talk about that I know might be controversial is true. So I'm here for all of the other stuff because I'm a fighter. I'm born to fight. So I'll fight that kind of fight. Let's go. Or life is boring without that, Somebody in my office told me we were talking about something one day, and I was talking about this concept, and they said, they'll kill you for talking about that. I'm like, good. What are you talking about? Amplify my voice. We're going to die one day. Let me go out with a bang and y'all amplify my voice. Everyone fears death or violence. I don't fear death at all. Like, why? That's why this culture is all weird. Why is death morbid? That's a normal thing that's going to happen. Worst case scenario is nothing happens and is nothing. Just like before you was born, is nothing. You don't remember nothing before you was born, right? So that's the worst case scenario, lights out, boom, right? Or what do we have to draw experiences from is our life. And typically it's not that bad. So why would that be bad? It's not that I'm like excited about dying, but I kind of am. When it's time, I'm like, cool, let's don't be fucking sad. Like, let's celebrate. Don't be trying to get me all misty-eyed right now, right? When it's time to go, it's time to go. You know, there's a lot here. You don't fear these things. You know, you stand on what you stand on. I stand on truth whenever.
That's amazing, because that lines up perfectly with, I don't know if you've come across Giordano Bruno, who was the Italian astronomer, and he was burnt at the stake, or essentially killed, because of his beliefs. 300 years later, his philosophy and his ideas were proven correct, and now every year in Italy they celebrate his life.
Legend. That's what it's about. This death thing is temporary. Boom, it's a blip. Most people are forgotten about. He's not. He's venerated. If anybody think they're gonna live forever, knock it off. You're not. The only thing that can possibly live forever is your works. You know, your ideas, the things that you leave behind. He achieved that. He's a salute. He's a great one. I remember watching, I don't know if you're familiar with Notorious Big. Mm-hmm. Okay, so when he passed, like, I'm from Brooklyn, so that was big for me. He died at 25, right? Young man. And his procession, they took his hearse through Brooklyn. I'd never seen, and Brooklyn's not even a city, it's a borough. I've never seen our borough so lit up, so much joy. I was like, bro, I'm getting goosebumps right now, because what he left behind was so magnificent. He touched so many people in such a positive way, right? Salute. That's what I'm living for, right? Look, my grandkids, great-great-grandkids, they got video now. They're like, dang, Grandpa was a beast. Look at Grandpa right here. He was tatted up. Oh, he had that car? That's crazy. Oh, you know what I'm saying? So they can see these things now. We live forever through media, through technology.
That's awesome. One last question before we wrap up. What is occupying your mind at the moment? Like, what are you consistently thinking about, and what's in your deep introspections and your thought processes that you're sort of trying to navigate now within your own life?
This metamorphosis that I'm going through at the moment, you know? So for the past year, I've been knee deep in growing and, you know, just doing as good a job as possible with my mentorship program called the Sacred Society, and also the book that I've been writing. So these things have been heavy on me, you know, in a good way, in a way that adds seasoning or flavor to life. It adds so much meaning, right? That's very exciting to me. It's not scary at all. I'm here for it. I'm here for the challenge. So if I have this great war within myself, within my weaker nature versus my stronger nature, it's gonna elevate me in ways that I can't even explain. So now I'm at a precipice of a new me, right? The same me, but me coming out of this cocoon. So I can't lie, it's exciting. Lots gonna change, right? But I'm here for it.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And I think it was I don't know, just something insightful as well. Like, I love having the conversations, especially around philosophy and thought process and how we navigate life. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for sharing time and space with me. And I can't wait to give you my book to see your feedback on it.
100%. I'll get it out to our community as well. Make sure we get it out in Australia.
Appreciate it. Yep.
And thank you.
Yes, sir.
Most people waste their life, and I just don't want you to be one of them.